as I say, give it another 3 minutes for people to arrive, and then we will start. We have now 20 attendees, and we expect still a few more.
It's changing now, or no?
All right.
Offer most opportunities. What requirements should you comply with? How is the end market segmented? And through what channels can you reach the market? And of course, very important, what competition do you face in this software development market? I'm very happy to have with me two experts who will introduce themselves further, but first is Onno Roukens. He is working for one of the companies that does a lot of market research for CBI, called Cool. And the second is Laszlo Klucs, who's also been involved with especially this topic of software development, and also is an experienced CBI expert. So I would like to give the floor to them. I just want to give some practical details. During this webinar, we cannot hear you and we cannot see you. You only see us. If you have any questions, please post them in the questions section. There will be a Q&A at the end of the session where we will look at these questions, but sometimes our presenters will also see questions and maybe answer them directly, but please post them all there. For technical questions, you could use the chat, but in general, I must admit that we cannot do a lot for you when the technology is not working well. So we have the talk of Onno and Laszlo, and then we will close with some questions and answers. And after the webinar, you will receive all the information. So please, I don't know who's going to start. Onno, I assume, so I give the floor to you.
Margot, thank you so much. Very warm welcome from the Netherlands. Good morning, good afternoon. My name is Onno Roukens. I always say, forget about my last name, just please call me Onno. I'm one of the owners of the company Globally Cool, a company that's specialized in market research and marketing, digital marketing. And we have developed many reports about IT outsourcing, software development outsourcing, and we helped many companies from Armenia, Colombia, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, by improving their digital marketing, improving their website, the LinkedIn, the use of LinkedIn, ranking higher in Google, and so on. So I'm very happy to be part of this webinar. I hope I can give you ideas, food for thought, how to enter the European market. So that will be the goal for this webinar, to provide you with useful information, food for thought, how to enter the European market. And I'm really happy that my colleague Laszlo, who I have been working a lot with, is also part of this webinar. So Laszlo, I would like to give you the floor now to introduce yourself.
Welcome to everyone. It's my name is Laszlo Klucs, so it's simply Laszlo. I'm an independent IT consultant. I have been working with small and medium-sized IT companies in the past 20 years. I worked in about 40 countries, and what I do, I help companies, small-sized IT companies, to enter the European market. I have been working together with the CBI since 2000 as well. So together with Onno, we also did a lot of market research, and I organized also a lot of training programs as well. Thank you, Onno.
All right. What we would like to know first is we will start with a poll for the participants, what we would like to know, if you are already providing outsourcing services to Europe. So please select one of the following, yes or no. Do you already provide outsourcing services to Europe? I would like to give you just 20 seconds for this one. Are you already exporting to Europe? Are you already having clients in Europe? So it's a simple yes or no. Okay, I think we can close the poll now. That's interesting. I think there are already 40% of the participants who already have a foothold in Europe, and around 60% they don't have a contact yet. That's important information for us, good information to know when we are going to give this webinar, so that we know that there are people already outsourcing to Europe, but also there's a large part that's not outsourcing yet. Now we would like to start with the first important question of this webinar. Why is Europe a very interesting market? And Laszlo will answer this question by explaining why Europe is a very interesting market.
First of all, there are a number of things that are presently driving the market. One, of course, is the COVID-19 pandemic, which we are going to talk about later. But there are also a number of very important factors that are driving the market in Europe. One is digital transformation and automation. That is also very highly related to the COVID pandemic. There is a shortage of software developers in Europe, and that has been the case, I would say, in the past decade. I will show you later a little bit about the statistics of that. There is a need for cost reduction. It's always been one of the reasons why companies outsource, why companies work together with foreign partners. Not the only one. Today, again, because of the ongoing pandemic, it's ever more interesting. And then there is another thing, that companies tend to focus more and more on their core businesses. So let's have a look at these four items one by one. First of all, what is digital transformation? Because we all talk about and we all hear about digital transformation, but we don't necessarily know what digital transformation is. So digital transformation has three parts. One is digitization of information. That is a kind of technical process where information, mostly analog information, is transferred into digital form. You can think about paperless office, the digital conversion of books, data collection, sensors, digital measurements, and so on. Also, your mobile phones transmits an awful lot of data to different holders of those data. So there are more and more information available digitally, and that is one part of digital transformation. The second part is digitalization of industries. And those are, let's say, the major trends nowadays. We talk about Internet of Things, the industrial part of it, machine learning, artificial intelligence, e-government services, electronic payment, blockchain, and all kinds of other things that are related to the digitalization of industries, government, and businesses. And the third part is the digital transformation of societies. We all know that our life is more and more revolving around digital solutions, either privately or in business. So those are the three parts of digital transformation. And the important thing is that all three parts have very important opportunities for companies from emerging markets. When we talk about digital transformation and automation, there are a number of examples that you can think about. In hospitality services, we all heard about Expedia, Booking.com, Airbnb, and all the other travel aggregators, e-commerce, Amazon, Alibaba, and a million other more. In finance, we all know that online banking is very popular. Almost everyone can have access to online banking services. Cryptocurrencies and virtual wallets are coming up. Healthcare is getting more and more important. There are more and more digital services in healthcare, e-prescriptions, digital patient-doctor interactions, also artificial intelligence, virtual reality, and augmented reality are very important in healthcare, but also in healthcare education. And there are many others, agriculture, industry, and many other examples of digital transformation. Digital transformation became a priority even before this year, but the ongoing pandemic underlined the importance of this. And there are an increasing demand of digital solutions, and I think it also provides good opportunities for software companies. And the important thing is not only to develop software in an outsourcing relationship, but also if your company is innovative enough to provide products for these markets. There are a number of areas that are very important nowadays. One is remote working and collaboration solutions. You know, everybody is at one point we all got into home office, so remote working and collaboration became very important. At the same time, security solutions are important because one of the major concerns regarding digitalization of industries is security. Another thing is another area is digital retailing and e-commerce, robotics and drones, contactless payment solutions, artificial intelligence-based systems and chatbots, and many other things are becoming more and more important, not least because of the ongoing pandemic. So I think these areas, even though these are just examples, but they provide very good opportunities for companies, not only to provide outsourcing services, but also to develop products and tools for those industries. Now let me tell you a little bit about the software development developer shortage. There are 5.5 million software developers in Europe. In 2014, they have predicted 900,000 professionals missing from the European market by 2020. In 2017, the European Union adjusted this number to 500,000, but actually the number is irrelevant. One thing we need to know, that there is a huge shortage of IT people in Europe. There is also statistics that about 50% of the companies have difficulties to find the right people. One thing is for sure, that the number of developers grew about 7% in Europe in 2019, whereas the demand is expected to grow in 2020 by 10%. So the growth of demand is bigger than the number of developers entering the market and available for companies. So this is another force that is driving IT outsourcing. And there are other things that are driving the market at this very moment. Focus on core business, that is nothing new. Companies have been outsourcing for that for more than a decade. And then there is a cost reduction. Now, one thing you need to know about the European market, that costs and prices are very important, but very often the costs and prices are not the most important factors when a company makes a outsourcing decision. So all in all, the complete package that you offer has to be right, including the quality, the availability of people, and your communication and intercultural skills, and many other things. So again, the important thing is that there is a need for cost reduction. The cheapest is not always taking the business. So cost is and prices are important. They have to be right. But for many companies, that is not the only and most important factor when they make an outsourcing decision. So this is what I wanted to tell you about Europe and what makes Europe an interesting market. And I think if you add all these things together, you will realize that even though there is an ongoing pandemic and there are a number of limitations of entering the market, doing business in Europe, acquiring new clients, but on the other end, there are also a growing number of opportunities, and those opportunities are not going to just disappear. So I think it's a very good time for you to start to think about how to tackle the European market and how to try to enter the market, and ultimately how to find your clients for those 60% of you who didn't find the clients yet. With that, I'm going to give the floor to Onno, who is going to provide you with the next chapter.
So Laszlo was mentioning that Europe is an interesting market, but then it's also interesting to know what are the most promising markets in Europe. What are the most interesting markets to look at if we talk about outsourcing of the software development services? Then I would like to start first with a poll again. I would like to know from your side, which countries do you think offer most opportunities? So in this case, we just give you the possibility for 5 countries. And I would like to ask you, which countries do you think offer most opportunities? And more answers are possible. So it could be that there are 2 or 3 countries, 4 countries that are really interesting to focus at. So please have a look at those countries and give your idea. And in the poll, I already see that people are more or less agree upon what are really the most interesting markets. I think it's already interesting to close the poll now. and let's have a quick look at the results. And I really agree with you that Germany, the Netherlands, and Sweden are very interesting markets for offshore outsourcing, for trying to look for clients in those markets. And Spain and Italy are not that easy, not really high potential. What I would like to explain this a little bit in more detail. What I would like to do is to give you a quick tour through Europe. I would like to give you a quick tour to Europe. What are the most interesting markets for outsourcing your software development services? I think if you look at which markets, which countries really have high potential, then we can say that the northern part of Europe and the western part of Europe provides a lot of opportunities. And in this case, if you talk about, for example, Germany, this is a market that the software market in Germany is quite big, is growing. There is certainly a need for outsourcing software development services. The only challenge in this case is that Germany is more fond of outsourcing the software development services nearby. So they prefer to outsource their software development service to, for example, Poland. But the last 2-3 years, that's already changing a bit. They are also looking for offshore outsourcing. So they look for possibilities in Asia or Africa. So Germany is a very interesting market. The same thing, what you should know, if we talk about Germany, the German language could be a barrier. Many companies in Germany like to work in the German language. So that's also one of the things that could be a barrier. But in general, Germany is an interesting market. And the same goes for the United Kingdom, Great Britain. It's still a big market in terms of software development. The growth is there. And at the same time, they are really open for offshore outsourcing software development services to Africa, to Asia, certainly to Asia. Also, this has to do with they really have a focus on cost reduction, but also they are open to work with companies from developing countries and emerging markets. So UK and Germany, interesting markets. But also if we talk about Europe, we talk about the western part of Europe and the northern part of Europe, also the smaller countries are very interesting. They also have a big software market. And then I would like to highlight the Netherlands and I would like to highlight Finland. Those countries are both open to offshore outsourcing. Those countries are also able to speak English language very easily. So the communication is quite easy, and in both countries there is really a shortage of skilled software developers. So that also gives you an opportunity in those markets. So Western Europe, northern part of Europe, interesting. Germany, UK, Netherlands, Finland, interesting markets. If we talk about France, that could be interesting for the companies from Senegal. Because if you are able to speak in French language, then a country like France could be interesting. Software market is still quite big, is also growing. But France is not really open to outsourcing. So it's not an easy market. Same goes for Spain and Italy. Both countries are not really open to offshore outsourcing, and certainly due to the coronavirus, their economy will recover not that fast. So that's also not a big plus for focusing on those countries. Of course, there are always exceptions on this rule because you give an indication. But it's interesting. let's say if you're from Colombia, you're from Latin America, then Spain could be an interesting market. Or if you are from Albania and you try to focus on Italy, and you have people that are working with you that speak Italian language, then still those countries could be interesting. But in general, Spain and Italy are not an easy market at the moment. Then what is also interesting in Europe, that Central Europe and Eastern Europe are also very interesting markets for you. In general, you would expect this is the competition because there are many countries in Eastern Europe, in Central Europe, who are outsourcing their services to Western Europe and to the Northern Europe. And those companies are quite good. For example, Poland, they have really quality software developers. They rank number 3 in the world. The software development market is growing very fast, 4-5%. But at the same time, the rates of the software developers are going up. So they're also looking for software developers in other countries. So that could be an opportunity for you. So if you talk about Central and Eastern Europe, countries like Poland, countries like Czech Republic, they are your competition, but at the same time, they also could be your partner. So that's another option, that you are looking at Central and Eastern Europe, and not in terms of competition, but that could be one of your clients. So that's a short tour around Europe. And then I think if you talk about trying to find your most promising countries, then I think the Central and Eastern Europe countries are interesting to check, but also Western Europe and the northern part of Europe are interesting to do some research. And now I would like to give the floor to Laszlo. Laszlo is going to talk about the requirements you have to comply with if you want to have clients in Europe.
There are just a number of requirements that you have to take into consideration. Now, there is one thing that you need to know, that not every company has to comply with all those requirements. So I will just mention a few, and then we try to make a conclusion of that. So first of all, there is a European level set of legislations. One is the Directive of the Legal Protection of Computer Programs. This is all about copyright. Now, copyright in IT outsourcing and software development is actually a very interesting question. Unfortunately, at this time, we don't have the time to get into this. But basically, the copyright holder, most of the time, is the European company that is signing a contract with you. So in most cases, you won't be able to keep the copyright of the software that you are developing. In some cases, when there are some kind of profit sharing, gain sharing scheme, then you might be able to negotiate with your partner about it. But in general, the copyright remains with the European company. In any case, if you think that throughout your practice, copyright is an important thing, then you need to find a very good lawyer, and a very good lawyer that really knows the legal system of the country where your clients reside. So this is not something that you would just copy from the internet and then you sign it, but you really need a very good lawyer. Now, the second very important European level legislation is the GDPR. I'm sure that you have heard about the GDPR already. GDPR is about privacy. And the second leg of the European level legislation is the e-privacy directive. They also call it the cookie law. So whereas the GDPR deals with how to collect data about individuals and companies and how to handle them, how to protect them, e-privacy is dealing with the transmission of electronic data and in general electronic communication. In most cases, you also have to take care of either parts of the GDPR or the e-privacy directive, because it is most likely that you will have some kind of data under your control. So that you will have to take very seriously, because the European authorities are also taking it very seriously. Maybe just one remark about the European level legislation, that there are directives and there are regulations. Now, the directives are legal blocks of the European Union, and the member states have some kind of time and possibility to adjust those legal terms and adjust them and build into their legal systems. Now, the directives are much stricter because there is no such let's say freedom of movement. There is a security certification that many IT companies are using, that is ISO 27001. That is about data security, and you can get a security certification for that. And the 2019 extension also deals with GDPR. I'm sure that you all know about the best known quality management systems that are used in software development, and that is the ISO 9001 type of certification and quality management system, and CMMI level 2 to 5. Well, we don't have the time to get into that, but I'm sure that also CMMI is widely known about among you. There is also a standard, an ISO standard for social responsibility, corporate social responsibility, and that is the ISO 26000 standard, even though you can't get a certification for that. Now, I think we are all aware of all those standards that are kind of the best known in the IT sector. What is also very important to know that there are industry-specific standards. Healthcare, automotive, aviation, almost all industries have their own standards related to how software is developed, how software should be tested, what type of requirements certain software should meet in order to be able to use in that industry. So, depending on what industry you target in the European Union, you should study those standards and kind of be prepared that your potential clients will ask about it. Now, I always get the question about quality management systems and should I get a certification? Now, when you have this question, you should try to answer basically 3 questions. The first one is it good for your own company? So if you certify, or if you don't certify but you introduce a quality management system, will that help your company to work better? Will you be more efficient? Can you serve your clients better? The second question is it good for your clients? Or you can also ask that, will your clients appreciate it, or eventually they will ask about it? There are a number of industries, and also I mentioned that those industry specific standards, very often clients are asking about it, and not only that, but also they can't work together with software development companies that are not complying with those standards. And the third question that companies often neglect, or they don't take it that seriously, is if that quality management system that you are about to implement, does it have a marketing value? So what does it mean if you put a small chapter on your website about your quality management system? Will it have a marketing value? Will you be different? Will it differentiate your company from the rest? Now, and I can tell you that if you just have an ISO 9001 certification, that is not necessarily going to be a differentiator. The same applies to CMMI level 3. That is not going to be a differentiator in most cases, where your clients are going to say, I am going to sign a contract with this company because they have an ISO or CMMI certification. On the other end, when you have some kind of proof that you are practicing an industry specific standard, then it might be a different case. So these are the three questions that you have to ask when you are dealing with quality certification, or if you try to implement some kind of quality management in your company. Now, I would like to say a few things about corporate social responsibility, because very often we don't think about that too much. And the fact is, we did a market research about corporate social responsibility and the importance of those issues among IT companies in Latin America. And it turned out that neither the companies nor their clients are all that much, they don't find it all that important, corporate social responsibility in software development and among software development companies. Nevertheless, for European buyers, having some kind of corporate social responsibility activity and programs in your company could be very important, even though they might not base their decision on that, but they might value that. So if you look at the if you look at the ISO standard for that, there are 7 areas of that: human rights, labor practices, environment, fair operating practices, consumer issues, and community involvement and development. Now, my advice to the companies that I am working with, and when we talk about corporate social responsibility, is to just take a few of these areas and try to find programs or try to develop programs that are really meaningful. Now, what does it mean, meaningful? Let's just take labor practices. So you can ask yourself if everybody in the company have a job description. What kind of work conditions do you provide to your people? What kind of training do you provide to your employees? Those, if they are well defined and if they and comprehensive, those can also be part of your corporate social responsibility program. Even though many of you are not dealing with consumers, but you are dealing with clients, so you can ask yourself, how can you improve your client support and customer service activities, for instance? Can you differentiate yourself based on your customer support activities? So when I work with my clients, we go through all these 7 areas, and we just try to find those points that are making the most sense for the company and for their clients. And I can tell you that if those areas are selected very well, usually European clients are really appreciated. And with that, I think we are going to run a poll, and then Onno will take you from there.
Thank you, Laszlo. I would like to talk about how is the end market segmented in Europe. And then I love to start discussing the following challenge. What do you think will offer more opportunities, being a specialist or being a generalist? So I would like to ask you what you think will have more success in Europe, if you can present yourself as a specialist or if you can present yourself as a generalist, that you can offer everything, all the services, you have all the technology, you can serve all the countries, all the industries, or that you just pick. You are a specialist in a specific service, you're a specialist in some technologies, a specialist for some industries. What do you think will be more successful? I just give you 5 more seconds before we close the poll. All right, thank you so much. Let's close the poll now. This is very interesting. If you talk about this poll, number 3, what offers more opportunity? Being a specialist or being a generalist? Almost everybody agrees upon 9 out of 10 of the participants, 90% of the participants, they say to be a specialist, that you can present yourself as a specialist. That will offer you more opportunities. What my experience, and I think it's also the experience of Laszlo, is we always advise people, if you want to present yourself on the European market, try to present yourself as a specialist. Make choices, focus on technology, focus on geographically, focus on the vertical market, horizontal markets. But what we see most of the time in practice, that the companies, they present themselves to the potential buyers as a generalist. They can do everything. I would like to highlight this a little bit more. I would like to give you a little bit more background. If we talk about being a specialist, that will be much more effective in terms of marketing, in terms of having your sales pitch. Then if we talk about being a specialist, you can focus yourself geographically. So you can say, I would like to become the specialist for the German market, or I would like to become the specialist for Finland. But also you can specialize horizontally, and you can specialize vertically. So if we talk about horizontally, you look for some specific services you're going to specialize. Same goes for the vertical market. You're going to specialize in automotive or healthcare or e-commerce, and also you're going to specialize in technology. If you're going to do that, then your marketing will be much more effective. You know who your buyers are. Your sales pitch will be much more effective because you can really focus on the specialization that you are really good at, let's say big data, and that you are really focusing on the healthcare market. That will be very good. That will be a sales pitch that will be effective. So we always advise, please specialize in the presentation to the European market. Focus on a few services. Laszlo were already mentioning many opportunities in the big data, Internet of Things, virtual reality, augmented reality, blockchain, machine learning, robotics, artificial intelligence, digital transformation, digital security. Those services are really trendy in Europe. Same goes for cloud and mobile. They are almost already commodity products, but it gives you the possibility to specialize. And the same goes for the industry in Europe. We can specialize in automotive, finance and banking, healthcare, telecom. Don't present yourself as a specialist, but try to focus on horizontal markets, vertical markets, geographically, and also in your technology. The last thing that I would like to share with you, if we talk about the end markets, the segmentation of end markets, is that I would like to discuss with you what is the ideal size of your client, because that's also our experience with the companies that we work with. They always look for the really big clients, and what will happen if you have just one big client, let's say from Finland, or let's say from Germany. If there's a huge big client that is working with you, then that big client has a lot of power. He can dictate price, he can dictate the services. So that's why we always try to recommend to say, if you're going to focus on clients, try to work with the medium-sized companies. We always try to make it a little bit funny in terms of the picture, but the advice is real. We always say mice are doing it with mice and elephants are doing it with elephants. So our advice is not go for the really big companies, but try to work together with the medium-sized companies. Now let's go to the fifth question of this webinar. What we would like to know is what is the preferred entry channel? And then I would like to give the floor to Laszlo.
Yes, this poll, the previous poll was very interesting to see that 91% of you said that you think that specialists can be the most successful on the European market. Now, I don't know your company, let's say one by one, but one thing I can tell you that most companies that I have been working in the past 20 years, even though they claim that they are a specialist, they are not. And one thing is that you need to know that technology that you are practicing, that is not a differentiator. So it doesn't matter what technology you are using, unless it is something very special. It's not a differentiator. It doesn't make you a specialist. Just to use open source or Microsoft or any other technologies, that doesn't make you a specialist. Well, in that light, it would be very interesting to know a little bit more about your companies, because indeed Onno is absolutely right that being a specialist and presenting yourself as a specialist on the European market has very, very strong advantages, even though it's also possible that on your home market you are presenting yourself as a generalist. So a generalist that would take any project that comes by, it is not really necessary that you present yourself the same way on the European market. Now, the other remark about the elephant and the mice, one of my clients put it this way: if you are not a large global company, run away from those clients.
It seems there is a sound problem with Laszlo, but I'm not sure everyone is experiencing the same. Onno, can you?
I have the same problem now, but I
Can you
also
check
have.
over?
Yeah. But my problem is I don't have the rights now to continue with the PowerPoint.
You can bring it.
Can you change the slide, Margot?
No.
Let me try. I'm not able to go to the next slide now because Laszlo did.
Just go on without the slides. That will be fine.
All right, then what I would like to share with you is one last topic that is about the competition in Europe. What we said was you have a strong competition from Central Europe and Eastern Europe, because European buyers, they really would like to outsource their software services nearby. They are in the same time zone. There is they understand each other culture a little bit more easily. So if you talk about your competition, then companies from Central and Eastern Europe are your competition. Companies from Poland, companies from Czech Republic, Ukraine, Russia is also a big competitor in the software development services. So also if you look at their hourly rate, the rates for the software developers per hour, it's between $25 and $50. And what I always like, if you would like to understand a little bit, Laszlo, you're back, but still you are muted.
Okay, is that okay now? All right. Yeah. So how far did you hear me or no? Did you see already?
You have to start with the poll.
Okay, so you heard about the trade channels.
Yeah, that was the first thing, but yeah, maybe because of the time, let's forget about the poll, Laszlo. Let's just continue.
Okay, so in general, the most interesting trade channels are the following, regardless of the poll that we are not going to run right now. It's companies from those emerging markets are looking for usually European partners, a European service provider, a European IT company that is developing software for European clients. Most companies are looking for those as a partner. The second most important is companies are looking for consultants, matchmakers, and sales and marketing representatives. So those are the three most interesting channels. Also in my practice, companies are looking for those. There are other potentials like local sales office or direct sales. They all have their own difficulties. I would like to tell you a few things about those three most important ones, or the three most interesting ones. First, the European service provider. What is it? A European service provider is what we call an independent software vendor. It is a software development company in Europe. The
Laszlo, I think you have a problem now with the connection.
Yeah, we're very sorry for this, but it is because we are all coming from different parts of the world, even in our presenting team. Sometimes technology, unfortunately, leaves us. What I would like to propose is we do have another poll which talks about the systemic way in which you get European contacts. So I would like to start that poll now. And then hopefully by that time, Laszlo back on. So we can go to the last part of this presentation. Also time-wise, we are going to the end of the seminar. So the question is, do you have a systematic way to get European contacts at the moment? And what we mean by that is, of course, do you really have a plan, and do you always do it the same, and do you have a plan to do this? Okay, I will, I think everybody who wanted to vote has voted. I will close the poll and share the results. So Onno, maybe you can say something about this?
Yeah. Okay, so what we really want to make sure that if you are aiming for Europe, then this is serious business. You really have to put a lot of effort in that. And you have to think about a systematic way how to find information about buyers, how to contact them, but also what to do in the digital marketing world. So you have to think about a systematic way to get more leads, and then also have a procedure to get from the leads the clients. So that's what we really want to advise, that you're going to think about a systematic way to increase the number of leads. And I think now Laszlo is back. Then maybe it's good, Laszlo, you will, we already did poll number 5.
Okay.
So maybe we can go to the last slide, just to make sure that we are going to talk about the way to get in contact with potential buyers, because I think this is something the company should know.
Okay. I think the question of having a systematic way of generating contacts is very important. But equally important is that you drive your contacts through your sales funnel. So this is one representation of the sales funnel that we have been using. And I think I just want to deal with the top 2 layers. One is contacts. What is a contact? A contact is when you get a business card and you have the person's contact details. Now, the one step more interesting is the leads. The leads are the contacts that are also willing to communicate with you. And I think it's very important that you do it systematically. You develop contacts and leads systematically, and you try to do that in large numbers. At the end of the day, it's a large numbers game. Everybody, all my clients are telling me, I need only one client. that's true, but in order to get that one client, you might need to have hundreds of contacts. And out of those hundreds of contacts, you might need 50% leads, because at the end, you might have 1 or 2 clients. So that is the final conclusion of this chart, that you have a number of channels, and today the number of channels are kind of shrinking because there are no trade shows, there are no business matchmaking events, there are no activities that need travel, that where you have to be there personally. So it also means that the online channels are becoming more and more important. But again, the important thing here is that you have to develop contacts and leads in a systematic way. You need people for that, or at least one person in your company for that, who is doing it either part-time or full-time, but definitely you need some kind of a person in your organization who takes care of that, and you need to do that in large numbers. You need to generate contacts, at least leads, the most possible, because that is the only way, and that is your only chance to have at the end you have clients. Onno.
Yes. What I would like to end with is, I think we shared a lot of information with you. We gave you ideas about why Europe is an interesting market, what are the most promising markets. We discussed the requirements, what are the most important requirements you have to comply with. We discussed the importance of being specialized. And we also discussed that if you would like to enter to Europe, there should be a systematic way of approaching buyers. You should go for the big numbers. And what I also would like to emphasize is, if you would like to know more, then the CBI website is a gold mine. If you look at the CBI website, you will find a lot of information about outsourcing services to Europe. You will find information about the trends, you will find information about the demand, the requirements, but I think it's also interesting to know that there are some specific information products that talk about software development services, but also a lot of tips how to find buyers. There's already a question I saw in the webinar that is going to ask about how to find buyers. Are there matchmaking organizations? The document How to Find Buyers will give you a lot of ideas on how to do that, how to do the business, how to organize your export. It's all there. I think the CBI is really offering quality information that will help you, that will kickstart your exporting to Europe. Also, if you want to make a kind of a plan, it will give you valuable input on all the information you need in terms of demand, requirements, trends, but also there are some specific promising export services like the big data, the blockchain. It's all there. So that's something we really would like to advise to you, that really try to look at the website and check all the reports that are available. It's all there. Market statistics, trends, buyer requirements, finding buyers, doing business, organizing your export. But also there are specific fact sheets on the promising services, the contact centers, the blockchain. It's all there. So that's something you certainly should do, just to check cbi.eu and then go for the market information about IT outsourcing and business process outsourcing, and you will find a lot of more information. There's even a special study about how to respond to COVID-19. That's also one of the things I think is very interesting now to check. And last but not least, subscribe to the Market Intelligence newsletter from CBI. So that means that you are always up to date with the latest information. I think that's more or less the things we want to share with you today. What we would like to ask you, if there are any more questions from your side, please put them in the via the questions. One of the questions is already about. Oh, sorry.
Well, I want to take over from there. I want to thank Onno and Laszlo. And what I will do is I will look at the questions and I will post them to Onno and Laszlo, so they can answer them. But Onno wanted to already start, so maybe you can start with the first question that you wanted to answer, and then I take over from there. But first of all, so thank you very much for this presentation so far.
Of course, the slides will be shared with the participants. That's the first questions. The first question: will the slides be shared with the participants? Of course, we're going to do that. We will share this PowerPoint with you. But at the same time, I can't emphasize it enough. If you go to the CBI website, you will find even more information.
Okay. We also will share the recording of this webinar, so that you will get also, and there might be some additional information that you will get. There was a question earlier. And I thought that's a question for me actually, because what Laszlo, you said, a lot of EU companies, there is a shortage of software developers in Europe. Now, how can we assure that as a company you can tap into that market rather than they hire individuals from those countries? I have a question, or even a kind of a remark from one of the participants that is actually into talent acquisition, and he's doing IT manpower sourcing from India, which means that that is something that happens also, that it's on individual basis. So how can you as a company actually benefit rather than having your individual staff being recruited by European companies?
One thing I can recommend you is that if you know your target market, so you know the geography, you know your specialization, and you know what type of technology you are using, please have a look at the largest job sites in those geographies that you are focusing on, because on those job sites you will see who is looking for what type of people. Now I can tell you an example that we have been working with a few Latin American clients in the past years, and one of the company there was specialized on software testing, and they looked up a few job sites in the Netherlands, particularly in the Amsterdam area, and it turned out that companies are looking for a few hundred testers. So they had a job opening for a few hundred testers in and around Amsterdam. So that was a kind of good indication where to look for companies that are looking for certain type of skills, and just target those companies with offers. But of course that's not that straightforward in Europe, because when you just send in an offer by email, let's say, most probably that is not going to be that efficient. But what I can tell you that to look at job sites and to see what type of people companies are looking for.
Okay, well, thank you for that answer. There was another question that was posed, which is about the CSR side. Could you give an example of an environmental activity that you could do in your company? Do you have any experience from companies that you work with?
Well, environment, let's say the environment part of CSR, I would say for small companies, for small software developers, that might not be that easy to find a kind of meaningful way of running some kind of an environment protection program. But nevertheless, the environment part of the CSR deals with pollution prevention, sustainable resource usage, and environment protection. Now, you have to look at your operation and to see where you have the largest environmental footprint of your operation, and just focus on that. If for a particular reason you want to focus on the environment.
Okay, well, thank you. We have actually two questions related to online networking events. The first question is, does CBI organize such online networking events? Not at the moment, but it's a good question. So as a sector account manager, it's something I think I should look into. But the other question is, are there any other matchmaking organization groups in Europe that could help to connect to European companies that you are aware of?
What I think would be interesting is in Finland there is Finn Partnership. That could be interesting to check. Just Google Finn Partnership. That could be an interesting matchmaking platform. I think in the German-speaking country there is a German outsourcing software verband that could be interesting to contact. But probably that would be better if your association is going to do that. And I'm always like to work with LinkedIn. In LinkedIn, you can also try to connect with LinkedIn groups related with outsourcing software development. And there are also a lot of opportunities to present your company and your sales people. So I think the Finn Partnership and the German outsourcing software verband, and certainly also LinkedIn, are interesting places to check. But Laszlo, I know for sure you will have some more ideas on this topic.
Well, there are a number of organizations that used to organize various matchmaking events. Even the largest trade fairs used to do that. But the thing is that I don't know any of the organizations right now organizing online networking events.
No, thank you. But it's good. It shows that there is a lack there, and that we might have to see if we can maybe from CBI look into that a bit more close. We are currently having a research commission to look into how to get in contact with sales agents specifically, and we have already a few contacts in that field now with some matchmaking organizations, but I cannot recommend them yet because we haven't really checked out well enough to see if it's recommendable. But as soon as that's the case, of course, we will share that information on the website. So unfortunately, not maybe the answer that you were looking for with that, but still that's something to go with. Then there's a question from somebody who says, what about managed service area? It's a company that is specializing in managed services. They would like to know a bit more about that.
I think to get European clients for managed services will be quite difficult because very often companies are not willing to outsource offshore those services, so they rather look for onshore service providers for those type of services. And the reason for that is because companies, the service provider might have access to very serious infrastructure. They might have access to data and all those type of things. So they don't necessarily like to outsource it offshore. As a matter of fact, in my practice over the years, I think I just came across a few companies, offshore service providers, that try to enter the market with those type of managed services. But there is another thing that it's kind of a general remark. So we should look at those type of services more in details.
Okay, well, thank you. There was, I think, because we are running a bit over time and we had 1 hour and 15 minutes, I want to go to the last question. Is it useful to participate in tenders? And if you do so, what will be the correct platforms for tenders to join?
Mm-hmm. Well, tenders, it's very much possible, but participating in tenders is a tricky question. I guess that you are thinking of European or tenders of particular member states. Very often, these tenders are not open for companies from outside the European Union. Sometimes these tenders or the tenderers cannot even partner with companies from outside the European Union. So first of all, you need to find those tenders that are open for either companies from outside the European Union or tenders where it is allowed to partner with EU, with companies from the EU. So those are the tenders that might have opportunities. So I think you need to find European partners for that, because alone I think it will be quite difficult, and I think the number of tenders are quite limited to do that. Now, where to look for those tenders? Well, at European level, there are websites for tenders, but each and every member state has a platform for tendering in their own countries. But again, I think the most promising way into that market is to find a number of partners first in the European Union, and then to see which are those tenders to participate at.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. There are more questions coming in, also specifically on tenders. We will look at all the questions and we will ask Onno and Laszlo to answer those questions, and those answers will also be sent to you. So that is something to keep in mind. For now, I would like to really thank Onno and Laszlo for their presentation and insights. If you have more questions, you can keep on posting them, but we also would like you to hang along a little bit. After we close this webinar, there will be some questions that we would like you to answer, and after that we will, as I said, we will send you the PowerPoint with also the recording, a link to the recording, and then answers to questions, especially if they're open. Some of you are asking very personal questions for companies, which you might want to share with your colleagues. So we will look into how we will answer that. So I think that's it for me. Do you have one last word, Onno?
No, thank you for visiting this webinar, and I wish you many clients in Europe.
Yeah.
Laszlo?
Yeah, the same from me. I think the conditions are not too easy right now, but there is no need to giving it up because there are plenty of opportunities in the European Union. So I am sure that many of you will find new clients here.
Okay, then on behalf of CBI and this gentleman down there that you can see now, I hope to see you again at the next webinars that we will be organizing, and please join the newsletter link. You can find it in the documentation you get, and thank you so much and have a good day.